Have you ever felt like you're running on fumes, doing everything right, yet feeling emptier by the day? Do you catch yourself checking off every task, fulfilling every obligation, and still wondering why you feel so far from yourself? That's not just exhaustion, that's burnout. In a world where hustle is glorified and silence is rare, how do we protect the only thing we truly own? Our energy, our focus, our peace. The Stoics, centuries ago, faced different battles, but their wisdom on endurance, clarity, and purpose is more relevant than ever. If you're ready to reclaim your mental strength, live with greater intention, and stop burning out just to keep up, this is your path. Subscribe now and join us on this journey, not just to avoid burnout, but to master the art of living with power, precision, and peace. 1. Guard your energy like a Stoic. We often think burnout comes from doing too much, but more often, it comes from doing too much that doesn't matter. Marcus Aurelius once asked himself a simple but powerful question: is this necessary? That's not just philosophical, it's practical. In a world obsessed with productivity and performance, we wear busyness like a badge of honor. But the Stoics understood that being busy is not the same as being effective. You can work all day and still accomplish nothing meaningful if your energy is misdirected. The true cost of distraction isn't time, it's your life force. Every yes you give away without thought is a silent no to something that could truly nourish your soul. When you stop to ask this question before saying yes to another obligation, another project, or another pointless scroll through social media, you begin to reclaim your time and your power. It becomes a filter through which you separate the essential from the noise. You don't have to respond to every message. You don't have to be involved in every conflict. You don't have to keep up with every trend or accept every invitation. When you start evaluating the demands on your time with the question, is this necessary? You begin to live with precision. You become more than a responder. You become a conscious actor in your own life. The truth is, your energy is not infinite. Every moment you spend on something that doesn't align with your core values is energy you're taking away from what actually fulfills you. The Stoic way is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, with intention, with integrity. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." You must ask yourself, are you investing your energy or simply leaking it? Leaking through worry, through obligations that don't serve you, through activities that offer momentary distraction but no true nourishment. Protecting your energy means recognizing its worth. It means recognizing that you are not just a resource to be consumed by the expectations of others. You are a being with purpose, and that purpose requires fuel. That fuel is your attention, your focus, your time. So the next time life demands your attention, pause and ask, is this mine to carry? Or is this noise I've mistaken for a signal? Not everything that calls to you deserves your response. Not everything urgent is important. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all, except hold the line, guard your peace, and move only when it matters. 2. Build your inner citadel. The world outside will always be loud, but within you there must be a place of silence, a fortress, a sanctuary. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel, a space no chaos can touch unless you invite it. This is not escapism, it's clarity. It's the place where the noise of the world falls away and what remains is your essence, your principles, your reason. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control external events, we can absolutely control our internal response to them. That control is forged inside the citadel. Burnout creeps in when we allow the external world to govern our inner life. Deadlines, drama, distractions, we start reacting instead of reflecting. The Stoic knows clarity begins when we return to that inner space where values, not noise, dictate our direction. When you lose touch with that place, you start chasing shadows. You measure your worth by fleeting outcomes and external approval. But when you are anchored in your inner citadel, you become immovable, not because you are rigid, but because you are rooted in something deeper than circumstance. This citadel is built through reflection, journaling, solitude, intentional silence. Every day, step back. Not to disconnect, but to realign. To remind yourself who you are and what you stand for. You build this sanctuary not in a monastery, but in small daily moments, by choosing stillness over chaos, intention over impulse, meaning over motion. You might be surrounded by demands, but you can still be calm. You might be in the center of a storm, but your soul does not have to be stirred. Let others be scattered. Let others be swept away. You hold the center. This is not arrogance, it's awareness. The Stoic life is not about withdrawing from the world. It's about being in the world without being owned by it. When you build your inner citadel, you are no longer a victim of the winds of fate. You become a lighthouse, grounded, steady, luminous. You illuminate not because you shout louder, but because you burn with inner clarity. And that clarity becomes your compass in a chaotic world. 3. Pause before you burn. We live in a culture addicted to movement. The next goal, the next email, the next problem to solve. But what if the most powerful thing you could do is pause? What if stopping wasn't a sign of laziness, but of mastery? In a world that glorifies hustle, the Stoic pause is a radical act. It says, I will not be driven by chaos. I will choose when to move and when to be still. Not because I'm passive, but because I'm purposeful. The Stoics weren't slow, they were deliberate. They understood that without moments of stillness, your actions become reflexive, not reflective. You become a machine chasing tasks, not a human living with purpose. When we don't pause, we lose ourselves. We forget why we started. We burn through energy without ever asking if the fire is even pointed in the right direction. Seneca warned, if a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. That's what a life without pause feels like. Motion without direction. Burnout isn't just doing too much, it's doing too much without meaning. But when you pause, even for a moment, you give yourself the chance to ask, what am I really chasing? Who am I becoming? The pause isn't just a break, it's a mirror. It reflects back the truth we often avoid in the rush. Are we building something worthwhile or just running from discomfort? Are we present or are we performing? These are questions that only rise in the stillness between our motions. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom. In the pause, we find perspective. And in perspective, we find peace. A Stoic doesn't run from difficulty, they face it. But they also don't rush into every battle blindly. They measure their response. They consider the weight of their choices. And they act only when the mind is clear. So before you move, before you burn yourself out in pursuit of something you haven't even named, pause, take a breath, reconnect with your values, and then move, not as a slave to urgency, but as a master of intention. 4. Stop worshipping exhaustion. In today's world, we confuse burnout with bravery. We wear our tiredness like a badge of honor. But the Stoics would see this for what it is, delusion. We live in a culture that glorifies the hustle. It celebrates the sleepless nights, the overbooked calendars, and the constant sense of urgency. Somewhere along the line, exhaustion became a virtue and balance became a weakness. People boast about their stress as if it's a mark of superiority, proof that they are more committed, more driven, more essential than everyone else. But the truth is, this mindset is rooted not in strength, but in insecurity. The Stoics, masters, of clarity and perspective, would see this cultural sickness for what it truly is, a subtle form of self-destruction. They understood that constant motion is not the same as progress, and that fatigue is not a sign of virtue, but often a sign of confusion or misplaced values. Seneca warned against pouring ourselves into endless labor without clarity. He taught that endurance by itself is not virtue. Endurance rooted in meaning, that's where strength is found. Seneca didn't praise blind effort. He urged people to reflect before they acted. He saw how many spent their lives toiling for things they didn't even want, driven by ego, fear, or social pressure. To the Stoics, virtue was not in working harder than everyone else, it was in working deliberately, with purpose. Endurance, when misapplied, becomes suffering. But when endurance is tied to meaning, when you persist in something that serves your deeper values, that's when it becomes a source of true power. Seneca might ask, why are you working so hard? Is it to impress others? To silence your inner critic? Or is it because your labor reflects your principles, your contribution to the world? Without this clarity, all effort becomes noise. True strength isn't staying up until 2 a.m. answering emails. It's knowing when to stop, when to rest, when to say no. Modern life trains us to equate exhaustion with effectiveness. We convince ourselves that productivity is a 24/7 mission and anything less is laziness. But this is a dangerous illusion. True inner strength lies not in your ability to push yourself past the brink, but in your ability to recognize your limits. To say, this can wait. To protect your mind and body like a disciplined warrior, not a frantic soldier. Resting is not quitting. Saying no is not weakness. Stopping does not make you less. It makes you whole. Strength means stepping back when needed so that you can step forward with purpose. You are not your productivity. Your worth is not tied to how drained you are. Real courage is not running yourself into the ground. It's having the discipline to protect what matters. Many of us struggle with a deep-rooted belief that we must constantly earn our right to exist. We try to prove our worth through work, piling task upon task in a desperate chase for validation. But the Stoics remind us, your value is intrinsic. It is not measured by output, exhaustion, or how many hours you put in. You are a human being, not a machine. The courage to rest, to set boundaries, to preserve your time and energy. This is a higher form of strength. It is the discipline to say, I matter, and I refuse to sacrifice myself for someone else's scoreboard. So the next time someone praises your grind, remember, it's not how busy you are. It's how aligned you are. The world will continue to reward overwork and applaud the facade of constant motion. But you don't have to play that game. The Stoic path is not about being the busiest person in the room. It's about being the most intentional. Don't let your life be dictated by the illusion of busyness. Let it be guided by what truly matters to you. When your actions are aligned with your values, you move with clarity. You find peace in your purpose. And in that state, you no longer need the world's applause because you already have your own approval. 5. Rest is a weapon, not a weakness. Rest is not an escape, it's preparation. The Stoics didn't see rest as luxury, they saw it as strategy. For the Stoics, rest wasn't something you earned only after collapsing. It was something you practiced as part of a life of excellence. They understood that to live wisely and act virtuously, the mind and body had to be renewed. In today's hyper-productive society, rest is often seen as indulgence, a guilty pleasure reserved for the lazy or the privileged. But that's a modern lie. Rest is not a retreat from life, it is a recalibration. It is the way we prepare for the challenges to come. Resting strategically means you are not merely reacting to life, you are preparing to engage with it at full strength. Every warrior knows the battle isn't won on the field, it's won in the moments of preparation, of recovery. Rest is where strength is restored, where clarity is sharpened. In ancient times, warriors didn't spend every moment fighting. They trained, they rested, they recovered, so that when the real battle came, they were sharp and ready. The Stoics, many of whom were military leaders and politicians, knew this intimately. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, still found time to write, reflect, and rest. He understood that clarity comes from space and that discipline is not about pushing 100% all the time. It's about knowing when to push and when to pause. Without recovery, your edge dulls. Without quiet, your thoughts blur. Without sleep, your character cracks. Rest is the space where your wisdom grows and your courage is restored. When you rest with intention, you don't fall behind. You move ahead with precision. You engage life not out of desperation, but from a place of power. The fear of falling behind drives many people to abandon rest. They believe they'll lose momentum, miss opportunities, or appear weak. But this fear is misguided. When you rest with intention, with a clear plan and purpose, you don't stagnate. You evolve. You return to your tasks, not frazzled, but focused. You act not out of exhaustion, but from clarity. This kind of energy is magnetic. It allows you to move with power and precision rather than frantic effort. The Stoic is not scattered, but centered. Rest fuels that centeredness. It transforms you into someone who doesn't just survive life, but masters it. So build recovery into your daily rhythm, not just sleep, but quiet, play, stillness, time away from screens. Give your soul a chance to breathe. Recovery isn't just about getting 8 hours of sleep. It's about nourishing all dimensions of your being. It's about carving out space for silence in a world that never stops shouting. It's about engaging in play, allowing your spirit to lighten. It's about stepping away from screens, letting your mind detox from digital clutter. These moments are not wasted. They are sacred. When you recover with intention, you become more present, more creative, more grounded. Your mind clears. Your stress lowers. Your energy returns. You begin to feel like yourself again, not a cog in the machine, but a whole, breathing person. This is how you last, not by burning out, but by burning bright, with purpose. Longevity is not achieved by grinding until you collapse. It's achieved by pacing yourself, respecting your limits, and honoring your energy. Burnout is a sign of imbalance. But when you build in moments of renewal, you sustain your fire. You burn brighter, not chaotically, but with direction. The Stoics aimed to live in harmony with nature, including their own nature. That means cycles of effort and rest, action and stillness, fire and calm. So if you truly want to thrive, not just for a week, but for a lifetime, stop chasing constant effort. Start cultivating purposeful rest. That is the way of the wise. Choose the Stoic path. Burnout isn't just a personal failure, it's a symptom of a deeper misalignment, a life lived for others' expectations rather than your own values. But you can change that, right now. By choosing the Stoic path, guard your energy, return to your inner citadel, pause with purpose, reject the false virtue of exhaustion, and embrace rest as power. Life doesn't reward those who run the fastest. It rewards those who walk with direction. Subscribe if this message resonates. And remember, true strength is not in how much you carry, but in how wisely you choose your load.